Well, you talk to everyday Floridians. First of all, they would have locked down and cost hundreds of thousands of jobs. They criticize me for keeping the state open. They criticize me for getting our kids back into school. Just think if we had not done that, the destruction that would have happened, the unemployment rate that we would see. So we've saved the livelihoods of so many people who are hardworking, who don't have the luxury of working from home, and we stood up for them time and time again. And think about what most recently just happened when we did the bill to prevent people from losing their jobs over vax mandates. I think every Democrat in the Senate voted against that. They were all in favor of people losing their jobs, cops, firefighters, people that work for private businesses, nurses. You're seeing what's happening in these other states. You know, the media I know doesn't cover Delta waves when it's not the South or Florida, but you're really seeing huge hospitalization numbers. And a lot of these hospitals are short-staffed because they've actually laid off nurses. So we stood up for those folks, and we've been able to save and protect more jobs than anybody's ever been able to do because of the circumstances we found ourselves in. And then look at what we're also doing. We're saying these inflationary policies, which all of them support, are driving up the cost of gas. They're driving up the cost of groceries. They're pinching people's family budget. I think it's great that we have a lot of job openings in Florida. There's a lot of economic activity. But if your income goes up 4% and the cost of everything goes up 5%, well, then you've actually lost ground. So we're responding to that with what we're doing here with these gas tax holiday and all these other things. And then just think about what we're doing for law enforcement. You know, these are salt-of-the-earth, blue-collar folks. And I can tell you a lot of them were not standing with law enforcement for a long time, and they still don't. We've been with them every step of the way. We're not defunding police. I think all of them voted against our anti-riot bill, which had a provision that said we are not going to allow local governments to defund law enforcement. That was a very critical test of where you stand on that, and they stood on the side of defunding. So we're really, I think, standing up for folks. And oh, by the way, you know, what have we had to do some of the things like we did in the special session? We had to stand up against big government, the federal government. We had to stand up against some of the biggest corporations in the state of Florida because we actually believe that folks, you know, have the right to earn a living, and we don't think that they should be cast aside, you know, based on a decision about taking a shot or not. And it's interesting, I said about a month ago that before the special session that if these mandates are allowed, what they would do is they would change what fully vaccinated means. So right now, normal Series 2 doses, that will certainly, I said, in the future change to where if you don't get the booster, then you could be subject to these mandates and have penalties and potentially lose your job. And there were people, you know, who had a spasm that said, oh, that's not true. First of all, you're talking about, I'm saying what's going to happen in the future, so we have to wait and see. Well, now what's Fauci saying? He's saying almost assuredly you're going to need at least 3 shots to be considered fully vaccinated. And so we've stopped the pretty much across the board on these vax mandates for now. But the states that are doing it, other places and other states where companies are doing it, people are going to end up having to have that presented to them, no question about it. So I just don't see how you could say you're standing up for everyday people if you think that they should lose their jobs. If you're not willing to vote in a way that is protecting people's livelihoods and jobs, if you're not voting in a way that's protecting people's rights, parents' rights to send their kid to school in person, to direct their upbringing, to be involved in their education, we're doing that and then some, and we're proud of what we're able to accomplish. So we have more money, so we're increasing salaries for the attorneys in the AG's office to make sure that we can retain people, and we do have a litigation budget. My sense, though, is on how those mandates are working out. If you look at how it's gone, the Sixth Circuit has the OSHA consolidated. OSHA is done, okay? I mean, you can take that to the bank. The Sixth Circuit is never going to uphold what OSHA did. They are going to absolutely deep six that. I don't know that the U.S. Supreme Court even accepts the case at that point, but if they do, almost assuredly, that will get a deep six. So that's that. So our role in that at this point, because it's been consolidated in the Sixth Circuit, is relatively minimal. We are expecting a decision in the federal contractor case that we have in Tampa, but there's already a nationwide injunction on that. And so in some respects, you know, the thing about the nationwide injunctions, when you're the executive, you hate it because one judge, I mean, they would stop Trump in Hawaii. They'd find a liberal judge and they'd stop nationwide injunction. That's really not the way the system is supposed to work. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So now we're in a situation challenging Biden overreach, where you get one judge to do a nationwide injunction. They can actually win these other cases, and you're still going to have the injunction hold. So the contractor mandate nationwide is stopped, and the CMS mandate is stopped as well. I don't anticipate us needing, I mean, we'll see what happens, and we do have money for it, but I think a lot of the litigation that we'll see going forward will probably be on other issues, because I think these have been significant defeats. And if you look as we get in, by the time these things work themselves out, it is going to be something that I think it may even be moot at that point, based on what the underlying currents of the economy. And I think it's also interesting, the federal government themselves, you know, they've pushed back deadlines because they're faced with potentially losing a lot of employees. And that's not a good thing to have happen on your watch. And you look at what's happening in states that have imposed their own mandates on, say, nurses. Now they're having to call in the National Guard just to be able to staff the hospitals. So I think this stuff's going to work itself out to where people understand that, you know, these heavy-handed mandates, from a freedom perspective, all that, obviously very significant, but just functionally they're not working, because if you lose just a small number of employees in trucking, nursing, all these key industries, you just can't make a lot of this stuff work.